Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Karen Yankovich, and this is my weekly Women Supporting Women live show here on LinkedIn. And we also broadcast this to my private Facebook group that you can check out at LinkedInForWomenCommunity.com. And I am so excited about my guest today, Sue Falcone. I'm going to let her introduce herself to you. But what we do on the show, it's every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern. I really want to just introduce some of the cool women in my life that are supporting some of the other cool women in my life. And Sue totally fit that bill. She was a podcast guest a while back. We'll tell you a little bit about that. But Sue, welcome. It's so good to have you here.
Oh, greetings from North Carolina.
Yeah. I'm so glad to do this because we just don't talk enough. Tell everybody a little bit about who you are.
Well, Sue Falcone, and I'm the owner and founder of Remarkable, a speakers bureau, which represents remarkable professional speakers all over the globe. And we just have a fun time doing that, as well as now we added musical artists. So we have both that we can represent for any kind of event, virtual or on stage you want.
Awesome. So, I'm going to say, you guys, anybody that's watching us live, definitely put your questions in. If you're on Facebook, we don't always necessarily know who you are. So tell us your name. If you're on LinkedIn, we can see who you are. Leave your questions for Sue, because I know I have a lot of questions. And if I do, you guys must. But I guess my first question, Sue, is, the big question, which is, boy, what a shift, right, in the world since in the last 6 months. What has, as a speaker, and I've actually been able to, I've had some, really nice opportunities, but it's changed. So tell us your thoughts on that. What's happening in the event world, whether it's music or speaking events?
Well, it definitely changed. I mean, and we didn't anticipate it. We really had a clue how much it was going to affect our industry. We didn't see it. So, once I realized, what was no longer there, and we had contracts outstanding, they were calling by the number, figuring out what to do, how to do it, all like this. So I realized early on that speakers were going to have to get in the virtual game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was the deal, because that's the only way we can communicate. We can't do in person. And so we pivoted. I looked up, I said, I even had to upscale what I do. It was like, a minute, okay, I got to learn how to do this if I'm going to tell speakers what it's going to take, to help them and do all those kind of things. And music was like, wait a minute, I can't put it on virtual. Yeah, you can. They figured it out.
Yeah, you can, right?
So we
thank goodness, we need live music. It's live even if it's virtual, right?
Yes, it is, and they've learned it. The ones that are doing really well, I've got some that are making hits right on virtual.
Awesome.
So I mean, and the same thing with speakers. They're getting booked. They're getting do that, everything, because they invested in the technology so they could do it well.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Mm-hmm.
Back in March, early March, I was actually speaking at an event in Orlando. And when I got there, let's just say it was like Thursday. I met a friend of mine who had flown in from London for the event, and we were talking about doing live events in New York. And by Monday, we were like, we're not going to be doing any live events in New York anytime soon. So it was literally when the world shifted. I was at a live event, and the interesting thing was, my talk was, I think, Sunday, and I had 3 people come up to me after the talk and asked, how long are you going to be in Orlando? Because all of our speakers are canceling like crazy, and we need to fill our speaker roster. And fast forward, every one of those events got canceled, right? So and even moving forward, people don't know what to do about their 2021 events, right? Like, so what are you seeing around all of that? Are people planning 2021 events?
Well, some were, they thought, and then they're still not sure. And I think it's going to be as dramatic coming back as it was to go away. I think,
you think so?
Yeah, I think so, because it looks like Florida and some of those places are just opening wide open.
Right.
I'm receiving all these, we're open, book your event here and all like this. So once that gets filtered through to event planners and companies and associations that normally book speakers, it's then going to be who can get the spots, who can get the facility.
Yeah, but who's going to want this one? It's like, are you really going to want to go to an event and, where it's open, where, I don't know. It's because it's also iffy still, right? Like, because we just don't know. So it's such a crazy world.
And they're going to create hybrid events.
I love that.
Time that for those that feel comfortable and want to, the audience can come live. Yep. But they're also going to have the speaker want to do on stage and also do virtual, because they're going to sell both, and they're going to have both. So speakers, no matter what, is coming, you're going to have to get your technical skills in line and get you a video, because now to book virtual events, just like on stage events, what do they want to see? They want to see a virtual clip. So that's another thing that I've been saying right along. You better get the virtual clip just as well as the on stage.
That's such a good tip, Sue. That's such a good tip for anybody out there that's listening that wants to be a speaker. You've got to have your speaker reel being on a stage, but also that's interesting. Do you think you should include that into the same speaker reel, or do you think they should be two different videos?
Well, as you progress, I've seen it happen where the speakers were making two separate ones. Or could feature both. Well, which do you want? Here's this and this.
Great.
Now I've seen recently they've invested in the expense of it to put it all together so that an event planner is not going to have to go two places.
I kind of like that idea.
Yeah. So I think it still, but what makes it ever easier, that we can for the event planners, we want to do. So that, we're kind of
interesting.
Yeah.
You know what? In that event that I did in March, I invested in a videographer to be at that whole event with me. And I still haven't done anything with the video, because I don't even know what to put in the video now, right? Like, I don't even know what to do. So I'm actually in the place right now where we're editing it. So maybe I'll edit in some virtual stuff. That's actually
I would go ahead, because
that's actually a really good idea. It's actually a really good idea. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I got an email today from an event that I had applied to speak at saying, can we transfer your application over to our virtual event? You sure can, right? So, it is, I'm kind of glad that I'm not planning events, right? Because I miss them so much. I love conferences and live events.
Oh, I do too. And it's usually great to work with, but now I see event planners, they planned it, and then at the last minute, almost at the last minute, they're saying, oh, we can't do that. Can we go virtual? And I'm like, okay, all right, what do you need to see? Or they're putting it off. I had an event on stage that was scheduled for 2021 February. Yesterday, they've already got every detail is planned and everything. Yesterday said we're going to have to reschedule. Can you, but at least we can save what we've got and turn them for next year. Turn them.
Right.
They're not totally canceling, and this one had already paid us.
And I've seen events get creative. I was part of an event a couple of weeks ago, and it was a private event. It was like for a coaching program that I'm a part of, and they do a few in-person events a year. And obviously this time it was not in person. My doorbell was ringing the entire 3 days they delivered bagels. They delivered cookies. Like, they were like all the food that they would have fed you there. They were just showing up at your house with that. I got a big box full of swag. I've gotten more boxes of swag in the mail in the last couple of months because of this. So people are getting creative with their virtual events.
Oh, right? Yes, because they know they've got to keep and reach that audience somehow, and make them stay when they come to the virtual event. That's another thing. It's really interesting. Like, if you were live on stage and you went to the event, golly, if you wanted to kind of sneak out or you could do that, and it wouldn't disturb anybody and all like this. But now the virtual events are measured by how many show up and how many stay.
Yeah.
And it's so embarrassing. If you signed up for this virtual event and all, and you decided you really needed to be somewhere else or whatever,
right?
shows when you leave,
Yeah.
So,
Full disclosure, in this last virtual event, I cleaned my office most of the time. I had just renovated my office, so there was a pile, like, when you're refiling things in different places. So I had this pile, and I got to the bottom of the pile through the 3-day virtual event because I was, kind of, and I hate that I was multitasking, but when you're sitting there watching, and then you've got this, it's easy to get distracted, when you're sitting in your own office doing this stuff.
it is. And that's the deal that now I believe we're going to be seeing, you're not going to have these long times that you're going to spend. They're going to have to shorten them so that they can keep people there. And so that's another thing, though, that they send you the swag and they send you this, trying to get that connection so that you'll want to stay. But it's so tempting to want to, I mean, it really is. And, and it depends on the platform, too, because a lot of times you're not even connected in. They don't even know that you're there, and that's the hard part. That's a hard part for a speaker.
Yeah.
And let me just tell you, fees and all like this for virtual, let me tell you, I'm telling my speakers, don't discount your fees, because it's harder to do virtual than it is.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean,
I agree. No, I agree. So what other tips do you have for speakers now that are facing another maybe year of live events not really happening as much? I mean, because I think a lot of people, while they're excited that they can start to plan their next live event. Like you said, even for February, they're like, maybe not.
Yeah, that's it.
Great.
Oh golly, I would have thought, but it's still up in the air thing. So I tell speakers, you're going to have to figure out how you can still attract your audiences through virtual. You're just going to have to figure out how you're going to reach event planners, how you're going to book yourselves, just like me. I have to, do a lot more than I did because it's just a different medium. And they're all now, I found event planners, they're all now rescheduling everything because they might have planned it last week, and now it's this week, and the company met, or everybody met and said, no, we're going to have to delay it again. And so they have to figure out how to do all that. So it's going to be a challenge, and I'm telling people, don't give up, don't quit.
I agree. And honestly, what I've been basically telling people is kind of own the times we're in. Don't pretend we're not in this time. Like, don't try to act like this isn't happening. That it doesn't make you doom and gloom. It makes you like, here's how you can thrive while we're still dealing with this, right? And for example, one of the things that I've suggested is everybody should have the word virtual in their LinkedIn profile right now. And, and the feedback I get is, well, I'm a coach. Everything I do is virtual anyway. I said, I know, but now somebody that might have searched career coach 6 months ago is now searching for a virtual career coach, even though by the nature of career coaching, it's almost always virtual anyway, right? Yeah. So kind of own it and say, listen, I get it. Times are like this. You can always change it back when being virtual isn't as important as it is right now. But I think that, to thrive right now, I think kind of owning it and not being doom and gloom about it, but just saying, listen, I get this is what's happening. There's a lot of companies that were like, okay, it's the spring, we'll get through a few weeks or a month or two. And then, okay, it's the summer, everybody's light anyway. And now it's September, and they're like, how are we going to have the doors open in January, right? So I think we have to be eyes wide open to this, right? And do everything we can to operate in this new virtual world successfully.
Exactly. And I tell people, you need to stay positive, though.
Yes.
No matter what, and stay around with those people that are, because you're going to have some creativity that you'll think of something that you never thought of before. And I've got speakers that are writing books they never thought they would.
Yeah.
And getting maybe even into advanced topics that they never thought that they would even be into. So it's like, okay, here we are.
I love that. Yeah.
So there's more creativity and innovation going on with the technology, and that's a good learning experience. So you've got plenty of work to do.
Right.
Make sure, and just like you, having these events. These are events that you
Yeah.
can show what you are wanting people to see, and it doesn't take that much time. So you can put some energy into it, and then they can see that you're still out here. You are not leaving. You are not quitting.
Yeah.
And I tell our speakers, we came up with this early on. I said, we are going to bloom and boom. I'm not sure when that, we just keep putting it out there, and I get some more, tidbits, and they say, oh yeah, we're ready. And I said, okay, because you got to follow up. That's another thing. You have to follow up more than you ever had to.
Yeah.
Because even if they say it's not ready, we're not now ready to do anything or whatever, you got to stay in touch with them people, because you want to be the first one there when they're ready.
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. So let me ask you, what do you think about this? Like, I feel like I know that there's nothing like the energy of a live event. So there will be live events again, and hopefully soon, right? But at the same time, I think that there are events that have been produced quite effectively and quite economically virtually, whether it's training events or things like that. So I do think that leaning into being prepared to speak virtually isn't necessarily something that's just going to go away, even if somebody sprinkles fairy dust on the world and COVID disappears tomorrow, right? I think that there's still people that are going to be looking at this like, that event we did virtually wasn't that, it really kind of worked, right? We didn't have to fly people in from all over the country. Now, you definitely lose something. So I know that doesn't mean that there's not going to be live events, but I do think that there will be more virtual events just by the nature of the fact that people can see where they do work in certain places. What do you think about that?
I do, because I think the workplace is going to change.
Yes.
That's going to be, and I think there's lots of companies that if you're able to work from home and they've done it successfully, they may not be going back to work in an office setting like before. So having a virtual event or eventually on-stage event will be kind of a treat, for if you're working at home all the time. But some people have loved it. I mean, when we started, I think they said there was maybe 4 million of us out here remotely located. Now there's millions out here. And so how you approach that is an exciting thing, because some have redone their whole facilities.
Yeah.
They have added professional studios because they know they're going to need it.
Yeah.
And, even to participate as an executive level, I had a banking official say, yeah, we want to do some things. And I kind of like being at home doing some things. I'm like, you're a banking official. Does that work? Yeah, it's working. And I said, well, what do you need? What do you see? What do they want to see? And so it could be that it's just more informal, you know, you don't have to be as perfect, maybe like you did when you were on stage, that they accepted that because they're not perfect at it either, so it's like, oh, this is kind of cool. I can kind of try out, some things that I might not have done in person.
Right.
And, so I think there's an energy if you bring the energy.
Yeah. I think there's definitely things that have to be overcome. Like we missed a little bit of the chats around the water cooler type stuff, right? But I think that I like the way you explain that. So I think that that's true. At least it seems like it's true from what I'm seeing as well. And, I kind of think that the people that are going to take the biggest hit on the other side of all of this is going to be commercial real estate, because all of these, right? Because people are like, I don't need all this space anymore. Right?
Exactly. Some of the big cities are going to be really, I think, mass hit, because they've figured out it's everyone's liking it so much better because they've gotten used to it, and maybe they had to, based on family situations and everything else, to make it work. So I don't know. I'm excited about, and that's another topic that speakers can speak on is, how do you do this? How do you, because most speakers have been remotely located most of their career.
Right. Exactly.
I've got some wealth of information to share.
Yeah.
And that just kind of goes into helping them, get through it and say, this is going to be cool. This is going to be cool. We can do this. And
okay. So any any last tips you want to leave us for how to, because, as a speaker agent, right, it's in your best interest if your speakers have, are set up for success. So any last tip for the speakers out there that are, really wanting to step up in this virtual world?
Well, again, the equipment is key.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that everything works, and sometimes you just got to play with that and make sure. And I found I have to arrive early and make sure everything, is like I want to see it, and so it works so you feel comfortable and everyone enjoys the event. But I think in looking at your social media, you need to capture everything out there like you have done, Karen, in LinkedIn that you can use.
Yeah.
Because some of these things you say, oh, I don't have time to do all this social media and all like this. Yes, you do. And then you do. You're not traveling on an airplane.
But this is your first impression very often now, right? So when they're checking you out, they're going to put your name in a Google search. So what they find is your first impression now. It's not when you walk in the room.
Right. And this is what I just did a poll recently, and I sent it out, a survey to event planners, about 150 or so that I knew would give me an answer and all, to say, where do you find your speakers now? What are you looking for?
What did they
say? They Google a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I gave them, wouldn't you like to come by a speaker bureau? But that's okay. They'll get me on Google.
Of course you did, right?
Yeah, but they also said they're more looking for virtual. And so the ones that have really focused on that are going to be the first ones seen. And to do that, you got to put a lot of it in your social media. So, because all those little things count when you do, whether you do Facebook Lives or whether you do StreamYards or whether you do LinkedIn or whether you do it on Instagram, all those things count.
Right.
And you can make recordings of all of them. So that's another thing too. You can, make sure that you share it out there for ones that missed it. So that's the kind of thing that I see is going to be key. And it's going to be key for my future as well, because
that's such good advice.
That's the thing. I mean, where are they going to be looking? Where, they want to see what you do and what can, like a speaker bureau, what can I do for the client? What can I do for a speaker? How do we make this work? And, we're just having fun at it, because I just look at it like that. You've got to have fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it is kind of fun to have, to geek out a little bit with all the cool tech stuff, right? Because it seems like overwhelming. Like, I need a camera, I need lights, what is all this stuff? But it's all pretty inexpensive, right? Like, for a couple $100, you can really set yourself up nicely, right? And it makes a big difference. And once you have it, one of the things that I talk about a little bit is been renovating my house forever, and I know it's not beautiful behind me right now, but it's done enough that I can turn on the camera and talk. And that was such a huge shift for me from when my house was under construction and I was constantly moving screens around my house and green screens behind me and doing all this crazy stuff to hide the construction and to hide the ripped out walls and stuff. So, but it doesn't take long to find yourself a little setup and then have it just up all the time. It doesn't mean you can't move it. And honestly, lots of videos are just pick up your phone and, and record, right? So you still can do that, but there's so many ways to do that now that's more effective. My most recent find, which I will share with everybody here, I think it's called a Lume Cube, Lume. And it's this big. I can't show it to you because it's on the camera. It's about this big, or it's small. It's about half the size of my phone, and it's stuck to the back of my monitor, and it works better than the ring light that needed a tripod and power and all this stuff. It just plugs into USB, and it's a ton of light. So now, because before it was I'm going to move tripods and I got to do all this crazy stuff. And I don't have enough electric. And so this little cube now came out because everybody needed better lighting, right? So now this little cube came out, and, so that's really cool. And I probably want to get a new camera at some point. And I thought, I have a podcast, so I have microphones on top of microphones around. But
yeah, that's it. I mean, it's okay, I don't want to show y'all my,
Yeah. I have, and I don't really use it for this necessarily because I don't want it in my face when I'm talking on this, right? So the sound probably could be better in these if I chose to do that. I mean, I have lapel mics, I could do that too, but I think this works, right?
Here's one last tip I can share with you too. Done is better than perfect.
Yes.
A lot of speakers, like you said, you can just jump on here and make a video. You
Yep.
can jump on here and engage. You can just jump on anywhere and do that. But a lot of people say, I've got to stage it. I've got to make sure everything's perfect. All like this. With this, that's not the key. The key
Right.
is connection. And connection
Exactly.
can be in any form. And some just love to hear about, how are you handling this? What?
Right.
Yeah, I had construction today, but golly, I did 3 calls today.
Right. Right.
That's the deal. So I
Right.
think that's the thing. If you can make people feel comfortable, if you
Yeah.
can make people relax, because they're scared of the technology that, I'm not going to look good. I'm not going to sound
Right.
good. I'm not going to do this good. Sometimes you just have to do it.
I know. And I say to people, like, I don't really want to burst your bubble, but when people see you in person, that's what you look like, right? Like, you look the same, right? So that's what you look like. So that's what you sound like.
Yeah.
You don't like the way you look and sound on video. Just know that's what you look and sound like when you're walking down the street, right? So,
That's your brand. But see, that's your brand. They'll recognize that.
exactly. And that's all. I mean, listen, we can do things like our hair and our makeup and lighting. Like, I mean, I suggest you do, right? We don't need to be in our pajamas, right? But,
No, I always get dressed. But I dress every day anyway. So it's not,
right, right,
I just, hey,
right.
Julie, that's great. Done is better than perfect. Yes,
Yep. So Julio agrees with you.
I love it. That's great. We got the message out there.
Yeah. So, but it's true. It's true. You just got to do it. And, I will whine for a second and say, this morning I was doing, because LinkedIn Stories is brand new. Came out like yesterday or the day before. I don't know what I'm doing. I was actually away for 5 days with no Wi-Fi, if you could believe it. And I came back last Sunday night and like my phone exploded with people asking me about LinkedIn Live, and it was LinkedIn Stories, it rolled out in the US. So I was just like, all right, I'm just going to do it because I don't know what I'm doing yet because I wasn't even around when they rolled it out. But this morning, I really wanted to do a couple of videos. And, of course, I'm a girl. A guy can just come up and get out of bed and, you know what I mean? Like put on a shirt and turn on the camera. I turned on my camera. I'm like, oh, hell no, I'm not doing that. If you watch it, the story's still there probably. Like just like my cup of tea, like I'm having tea, it's 5:30 a.m., but I'm like, I'm not putting it on me because I'm not crazy, right? So at some point you shower, you put on a little makeup, and then you can be confidently, turning on your camera and then being authentic and connecting with your audience. I love that, Sue.
Oh, you just got to, and I just feel like that when you do that, it's going to make a difference in some people's life if you can remind yourself that every day, and they're going to remember you for doing that.
Yeah.
So when it's all said and done, that's who's going to make the impression. That's going to be the ones that you want to travel after.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, Sue. So everybody that's watching on LinkedIn should absolutely connect with Sue on LinkedIn. Tell everybody else how they can learn more about you and your bureau, your speaker bureau.
All right. My website is Remarkable Speakers with an S, remarkablespeakersbureau.com. Sorry, it's so long, but that's how it is. On Facebook, we're Remarkable Speakers Bureau. LinkedIn, Sue Falcone, and we've got a company page, Remarkable Speakers Bureau. So we're all out there. Twitter, Remarkable Speakers. So we like to connect with people. That's the key. Instagram, Remarkable Speakers. So we're out there to serve you. That's what we want to do, serve our clients as well as serve our speakers, because we want to fit that perfect match together. And that's why we're out here.
Awesome. Sue, thank you so much for coming on the show. If you want to listen to the whole podcast, KarenYankovich.com/013. And that's the whole podcast that Sue and I did. It was a long time ago now. It was almost 2 years ago. Do you know that? We're on like episode 70 now, right? So if you want to listen to the whole show, you can check it out there. Sue, thanks for hanging out with me here today.
Thank you so much. Have a remarkable week, everybody.
Take care, everyone.